First of all, the first 3 quarters of the game was all Atlanta. The first 3 quarters of the game was a true testament to how bad the AFC was this year compared to the NFC. The first 3 quarters, we saw an implosion of the New England Patriots right in front of our eyes. In the first 3 quarters, we saw probably some of the worst football Tom Brady has ever played. We saw some of the worst defense in the game's history. We saw receivers who looked like they had no idea what they were supposed to do with the football. The first 3 quarters was all Atlanta. Rise up. Matt Ryan, in the first 3 quarters, played like the MVP. The running game could not be stopped. Devonta Freeman, Tevin Coleman could not be stopped. Julio Jones, you want to double cover him, that's fine. But when a big play needed to be made, he was there. Taylor Gabriel, when Julio Jones was double covered, Taylor Gabriel was wide open. Mohamed Sanu made plays. Coleman and Freeman made plays as receivers as well. The defense stepped up in the first 3 quarters. Robert Alford with the pick 6 on Tom Brady. It was all Atlanta. It looked like they were going to walk towards their first championship in franchise history. But hold on. Hold on 1 second. If this was any other AFC team, Atlanta would have put up another 50 points. Realistically, if it was another AFC team like Pittsburgh or Kansas City, maybe you can even make the case for Houston, Atlanta would have won that game 50-3. Rule number 1 in the National Football League: never count out Tom Brady, never count out Bill Belichick, and more importantly, never, ever count out the New England Patriots. At 14-0, 21-0 after the pick 6, which sucked the life out of New England, at least so we thought. At 21-3 at the half, at 28-3 in the third quarter, there was one thing I kept saying to everybody that I was watching the game with. There was one thing I kept saying, and I quote, "This game is not over." Even at 28-3, a 25-point deficit. You remember before this game took place, the largest comeback in this game in particular, in the big game, the largest comeback ever was 10 points. New England had to rewrite the history books to win their 5th championship. 25 points, Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, not over yet. New England finally scores a touchdown in the third quarter, only to miss the extra point. Gostkowski misses the extra point, and you're thinking to yourself, that's the nail in the coffin right there, that they can't hit the extra point. This game's over, right? Wrong. We enter the fourth quarter. Here comes New England. They get a couple of good drives going. Then all of a sudden, it's 28-20. It's a game again. It's a game. This is what we wanted all night. Me particularly, I picked Atlanta to win. I wanted a closer game than 28-3. I was glad I was getting it. But it was funny because even at 28-3, I had that very uneasy feeling that the game was not over. Any other AFC team, this game is 50-3 at the end. And Atlanta walks out with their first championship ever. Not New England. Not Tom Brady. Not Bill Belichick. All of a sudden, in the blink of an eye, the game is 28-20 with 5 minutes to go. And you're thinking to yourself, there's no way this is going to happen. There's no possible way they could do this. Then all of a sudden, with about 4 minutes to go, Matt Ryan, with the play of the year, escapes the New England pressure and launches a ball down to Julio Jones. How he stayed in bounds and how he made that catch, I have no idea. Julio Jones stays in bounds, and all of a sudden, Atlanta is in prime field goal range. With 3 minutes to go, you have Bill Belichick on the sideline screaming at everybody because he knew this game was finished. When Julio Jones caught that ball and slammed his feet into the turf, which, by the way, turf toe, he went in this game with turf toe, slammed his feet into the ground, stayed in bounds. All of a sudden, Atlanta is in prime field goal range. They have a fresh set of downs, and this game is done. It's done. You have to literally hand New England the trophy at this point if you want to screw up that bad. Never count out New England. Never. We saw it 2 years ago against Seattle when Jermaine Kearse made that unbelievable grab to put Seattle in the red zone. And Seattle's at the 1-yard line with seconds left. And Russell Wilson throws the interception to Malcolm Butler. Never count out New England. But with every great comeback, there's an even greater collapse, and that's what I've been saying all week. As great as this comeback was for New England, if Atlanta didn't screw up as bad as they did, it would have never happened. So we get into field goal range. After that amazing catch Julio Jones made, all Atlanta has to do is run the ball. The clock is in their favor. The score is in their favor. The field position is in their favor. Worst case scenario, New England makes unbelievable 3 stops. And Matt Bryant goes out there and kicks a 30 to 35-yard field goal, which he's not going to miss. And you have a guaranteed 11-point lead with 2.5 minutes to play. Then, if New England does score and convert the 2-point conversion, you still have a 3-point lead with 30 seconds left. And then whatever happens after the onside kick happens. But that never happened. Here's what happens instead. Kyle Shanahan, the then offensive coordinator of the Atlanta Falcons, now the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers, decides we're a passing team, and we have been all year. So we're going to stick to that plan. All you have to do is run the ball. For Atlanta to have wrapped up that game, all they had to do was make sure that ball never went airborne again. So what happens? Kyle Shanahan calls a couple of passing plays. Matt Ryan gets sacked. And all of a sudden, you went from prime field goal range to a 4th and long and are forced to punt. You just gave Tom Brady 2.5 minutes to tie the game. You're asking to lose. Only New England. Only. So Kyle Shanahan makes some of the dumbest play calls I've ever seen in a championship game, next to the passing play 2 years ago with Seattle, New England. So he makes those play calls. Now all of a sudden, Tom Brady's got the ball. Down by 8. A 2-minute warning in his favor. First of all, you give Tom Brady 20 seconds, he's going to tie the game. Let alone 2.5 minutes. And then the Julian Edelman catch. How he caught that ball, I have no idea. But when he caught that ball, my exact words were, it's over. They were down by 8 at that point, and I said, it's over. New England just won another championship. With seconds left, Tom Brady throws a touchdown, converts a 2-point conversion. The game is tied. We enter, for the first time in NFL history, a championship to be decided. We enter overtime. First time in the game's history, we enter overtime. New England wins the coin toss. They elect to receive. Ball game. You would not see Matt Ryan on the field again. You would not see Julio Jones on the field again. You would not see the Atlanta running game on the field again. All you would see is a gassed out Atlanta defense, which, by the way, if you look at the stats, New England's offense was on the field 100 minutes in the game. Atlanta's offense only had 20 minutes, which means Atlanta's defense was on the field the majority of the night and were gassed out by overtime. Tom Brady picked the spots, picked his poison, and within minutes led the greatest comeback in NFL history. In the biggest comeback in the history of the big game. You couldn't do this again if you tried. Unless, of course, you're the New England Patriots. And as big of a comeback as it was, a couple of things. Number one, why are we surprised? And number two, with every great comeback, there is an even greater collapse. And if Atlanta didn't make those mistakes, if Kyle Shanahan didn't make those mistakes, you can make the case that Atlanta wins this game. The game might be very close, but the comeback never happens. Ever. And if you're an Atlanta fan, you will never get over this. You will literally remember this night for the rest of your lives. You are now officially the team who was on the receiving end of the greatest comeback in this game's history. And you have no one to blame but yourselves. Congratulations to the New England Patriots. I'm not taking anything away from them. But Atlanta, you had multiple opportunities to put this game away. And it was unbelievable that the first 3 quarters showed how bad the AFC was all year. The fourth quarter showed how elite Tom Brady and Bill Belichick really are. And it finally cemented their legacies as the greatest of all time. With 4 minutes to go, or 3:56 to go, we thought this game was done. Instead, they call a passing play that throws Matt Ryan right out of field goal range. Then they get a holding call, which backs him up even further. And then Matt Ryan throws the ball out of bounds on 3rd and 33? They got knocked so far out of field goal range, it wasn't even funny. But Tom Brady still had 3 minutes to tie the game, and still had to tie the game. And it's exactly what he did. With every great comeback, there's a greater collapse. But on the comeback side, everything's got to work in your favor, and you got to put in the work. That is what Tom Brady did on Sunday. For those who are still arguing that Tom Brady is not the greatest of all time, please go back and watch the game on Sunday. 5 rings, 4 MVPs, and on the night he won his 5th ring, he led the greatest comeback in the game's history. 51 years of this game, nobody has ever come back down 25 points to win a championship. Tom Brady made history in more ways than one last week. Won 5 rings, 4 MVPs, first to do both, and he led the greatest comeback in 51 years of the NFL of this game. Nobody has ever come back from 25 down to win. He did. He did. So for everybody who's saying that, and listen, I'm not the biggest Tom Brady fan in the world. I love what he's done for New England. He is a tremendous quarterback, and you may not like him, but you better respect him. You better respect him, especially after last week. Deflategate this and Spygate that for all I care. Bottom line is he is the greatest quarterback who has ever played in the NFL. His stats speak for itself. His rings speak for itself. His persona speaks for itself. His heroicness speaks for itself. His ability to come back and win a game speaks for itself. And the fact that you can never count him out. If Atlanta played any other team last week, they would put up another 25 points. Let alone give up 25. But because it was New England, even down 28-3, you knew the game was not over. And why? Because Tom Brady was the quarterback of the New England Patriots. If this was against Pittsburgh, Houston, maybe even Oakland, Atlanta wins this game by more than 40. Atlanta literally skips to a championship. Tom Brady and Bill Belichick led the greatest comeback we have seen in this era. 51 years of this game, not one team has ever come back down 25. So if you're still arguing 7 days later that Tom Brady is not the greatest of all time, please go back and watch the game. Because it's embarrassing that people are still out here saying, well, you can make the case for Peyton Manning. And yes, Peyton Manning was an all-around great quarterback. Playoff stats suck. All right, you could talk about Eli Manning, delete your account. Oh, you could talk about Tony Romo. Tony Romo was great, don't get me wrong, never won a ring. Oh, you could talk about Cam Newton. What? You can make the case for Drew Bledsoe. No. John Elway? No. It's Tom Brady. It's Tom Brady. Tom Brady, people. That's it. Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback to ever play in the NFL. The greatest. His stats speak for itself. And Bill Belichick, when Robert Kraft hired him 17 years ago, that was the single greatest decision ever made by the New England Patriots organization, was to hire Bill Belichick. And he was coming into a New England organization that was mainly the laughingstock of the league. You know, besides a couple of good years, they were not good, ever. Overall, average, they were not good. So what does Bill Belichick do? Turns the entire organization around. Puts his trust in a young quarterback named Tom Brady, who was drafted 199 overall out of Michigan. And to think that 17 years later, this team would be where they are as the single best dynasty in the history of the NFL. And the only two people you can thank for that. Because people have come and gone, as they should. It's the NFL. It's a replacement business. It happens. But the two people that were a constant reminder of why this team is amazing and special, Tom Brady, Bill Belichick. The greatest quarterback head coach duo ever. The greatest quarterback to ever play in the NFL. The greatest head coach to ever coach in the NFL. Guys, it's simple. The argument is over. And if you're still arguing about it, please go back and watch the game last week against Atlanta. Please. Because listen, I've made the case on SMC Sports for weeks. The AFC was weak and horrific compared to the NFC. And the only team that you had to worry about winning out of the AFC was New England. Because if Pittsburgh was in this game, or Miami, or Houston, or Kansas City, Atlanta wins this game by 50 points. But the single fact that the New England Patriots were in this game is why they were favored in Vegas, and is why at 28-3 Atlanta, you were sitting back saying this game is not over. Just on New England being in the game alone, you knew it was not over. And that is solely on Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. If you're still arguing today that there is a better quarterback than Tom Brady, if you're still arguing today that there was a better head coach than Bill Belichick, please go back and watch. And the second time in 3 years, New England was beat, and they found a way to win. They were beat and found a way to come back and win. Now, what does that say about New England? Per se, obviously, like I said before, guys come and go, but the one constant reminder is that Tom Brady and Bill Belichick are there, and as long as they're there, this team is a favorite to win the AFC every year. And again, I said it weeks ago, when Derek Carr went down, I declared the New England Patriots AFC champions on December 24th. The night Derek Carr tore his ACL and was out for the year, I declared the New England Patriots AFC champions because there was not another team in this conference that could beat them. Houston honestly showed the most that they could do it because they had the best defense in the league. And if Brock Osweiler wasn't horrific in the AFC divisional round, they might have won the game. And we've been saying that for weeks. Pittsburgh was not mentally ready to play New England. Kansas City would have been worse because literally they are the poster boys of being eliminated in the AFC divisional round. That's how bad they are in the playoffs. And Miami, forget it. No team in the AFC would have been ready for Atlanta, and no team in the AFC was ready for New England. New England was the only team that could have walked in and beat Atlanta, and they did. New England was the only team out of the AFC that could have won a championship this year, besides Oakland. And when Oakland went down, when Derek Carr went down in Oakland, they were out. 31 unanswered points. Why? Because Tom Brady and Bill Belichick are the greatest quarterback head coach duo of all time. And Tom Brady and Bill Belichick cemented their legacies as the greatest in this game's history. And if you're still arguing about it, go back and watch the game and delete your account.